The cold night air pressed against Viktor's face as he stood on the platform of the Kitai-Gorod metro station in Moscow. The flickering yellow lights above threw long shadows that danced on the wet concrete. People hurried by him, heads down, lost in their own thoughts. It was late and the city felt silent, but Viktor knew better. In Moscow at night, silence often hid secrets. Viktor glanced at his watch. 10 minutes past 11. The next train would come soon. He adjusted his thick wool coat against the bitter wind and stepped onto the empty platform edge. His boots clicked sharply in the quiet as he waited. The rattle of an arriving train broke the silence. As the doors slid open, the warmth and noise filled the carriage. Viktor stepped inside and found a place near a cold metal pole. The train rocked, lights humming above, faint music somewhere from a radio. The carriage smelled of old leather, sweat, and damp wool. Passengers leaned on poles, eyes glazed or focused on books and newspapers. Viktor's eyes scanned the faces. Nothing unusual, just tired people heading home. But then a man appeared. He was tall and thin, wearing a dark coat and a gray hat pulled low. His eyes flicked nervously, scanning the carriage. Viktor's heart rate quickened. The man moved toward him slowly, standing close without speaking. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "For you." Before Viktor could answer, the man pressed a small envelope into his palm and stepped back. The paper was thin but cold, almost heavy in his hand. The train slowed at the next station, doors sliding open with a sharp hiss. The stranger pushed through the crowd quickly and disappeared. Viktor blinked and looked down at the envelope again, his breathing quick. He opened it carefully. Inside, folded neatly, was a black and white photograph of a woman. Her hair was dark, her eyes sharp and serious. Viktor felt like those eyes were looking right at him. Below the photo was a small note written in neat, tight letters. "Trust no one. Midnight. Pushkin Square." Viktor swallowed hard. Trust no one. He had repeated those words to himself many times during his years living in Moscow. But now the warning felt more urgent, real. The train surged forward, lights flashing past underground tunnels. Viktor's thoughts raced. Who was the woman? Why Pushkin Square at midnight? And who was the stranger who had given him the envelope? Around him, people remained silent, staring ahead or fiddling with their bags. No one noticed the small, dangerous secret in Viktor's hand. Maybe they were all spies too, hiding behind tired faces. When the train stopped at Kuznetsky Most, Viktor stepped off smoothly and disappeared into the mass of evening walkers. Outside the station, a cold wind cut across Nikolskaya Street. He pulled his collar up and walked quickly. The streets were quiet but alive with distant sounds. The echo of footsteps, a lone tram bell ringing on Myasnitskaya, a dog barking in the darkness. Neon signs flickered weakly against old gray buildings. The city had a feeling of watching, waiting. Viktor crossed the street toward Pushkin Square. His heart pounded faster with every step. He tried to blend with the sparse crowd. Some people stopped at small bars or waited for late trams on Tverskaya Street. He kept glancing over his shoulder, expecting to be followed. At Pushkin Square, the giant bronze statue of the poet cast a long shadow under pale streetlights. Viktor's breath steamed in the cold air. He checked his watch again. It was 10 to midnight. A slow sadness settled in him. He knew the city's secret life well. Hidden meetings, coded messages, and lives destroyed in the blink of an eye. Was he part of that world now? A noise startled him, the sharp click of metal on stone. He froze and turned quickly. A shadow moved along the far wall near the statue, slipping into an alley. Viktor's hand reached inside his coat, touching the cold metal of a small pistol. "Come on," a low voice said behind him. Viktor spun around to see a woman step from the shadows. It was the woman in the photograph. Tall, with dark hair pulled back, her eyes fierce beneath a fur hat. She looked angry, but calm. "You came?" she said simply. Good. Who are you? Viktor asked, his voice rough and cautious. No time, she said, pulling him toward the alley. They know. They're watching. This city is a trap, Viktor. You don't know who will kill you next. Viktor's mind raced. How did she know his name? Who was they? But the look in her eyes told him to follow silently. They disappeared into the narrow street between old brick walls. The only light came from flickering lamps overhead, casting their long shadows. The distant sound of a late tram and the occasional shout broke the night's stillness. I'm Anya, the woman said quietly once they stopped in a dark doorway. She drew a folded piece of paper from her coat and pressed it into his hands. This has the names, people who can help, and those who want to kill the truth. Viktor unfolded it carefully. It was a list, names, phone numbers, addresses. His head spun. Could these people really be allies? I don't know who to trust, he said, voice low. Anya looked him straight in the eyes. You don't have to trust me, but if you don't act now, they will bury everything. We lose everything. Suddenly, footsteps echoed loudly behind them, both tensed. Anya grabbed Viktor's arm. Go, she hissed. Use the side street. Don't look back. He ran, heart pounding, weaving through the narrow alleys toward Arbat Street. Somewhere behind, the sound of boots chased him, breaking the quiet night. Viktor slipped into a small cafe still open. He breathed hard, pressing the envelopes against his chest. The people around him appeared normal, just people drinking tea, talking quietly. But in this city, normal was often a mask. He pulled out the photograph once more. Anya's eyes stared back. What had he stepped into? The clock in the cafe ticked toward 1. Viktor realized one truth. He could trust no one. Not the woman, not the man on the train, not even himself. Outside, the snow began to fall lightly, soft and cold. It covered the empty streets, making everything seem distant, quiet, and unchangeable. But Viktor knew better. Something dangerous was coming to Moscow's night. The city waited to see who would survive.